And you're live.
Very good. All right, James, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum. We can get started. We have 3 commissioners present, and Commissioner Turner is joining us via phone, and we have the other 2 commissioners joining us now. It looks like Commissioner Herring and Commissioner Gamble. So we have a quorum. You can start.
Very good. Well, good morning, all. The agenda for today's meeting was provided in advance. There's been a lot of activity since the commission was last together. So our first order of business is to approve the agenda. Any corrections or suggestions? Hearing none. May I ask for a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Thanks, Laura. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Rosie. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? None. So with that,
Just for the record, I am not Jim Nielsen, even though it shows on the screen.
I was struggling to decide.
I knew that.
Yeah, Mr. Merrimer is in disguise today. So the first item on the agenda is an update from James Butler on the regulations and the public comments thereon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before I begin, I'm going to turn it over to George Butler for introduction of our newest member to the SWORC staff.
Thank you, James. Commissioners, I just want to introduce Charity Scott, who's with me this morning. She's one of my DLS colleagues. She is a wonderful resource regarding gaming issues and will be an excellent asset to the staff for the commission.
Welcome, Charity.
Yeah, welcome, Charity.
That was Mr. Turner.
Good. Okay, I'll go ahead and begin, commissioners. I just want to give a recap of the regulatory process thus far and to give you some updates. On July 13th, SWORC approved its proposed regulations concerning the application and evaluation process for the sports wagering license. On July 22nd, SWORC staff filed these all new regulations as both proposed and emergency in the electronic filing system on behalf of SWORC. SWORC proposed regulations appeared in the August 26th edition of the Maryland Register, and there's a 30-day public comment which began on August 26th and ends this coming Monday, September 26th. On September 2nd, the Maryland General Assembly's Joint Committee on Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review approved SWORC's request for an emergency adoption of these regulations, which means that our emergency regulations went into effect on September 2nd, and they will terminate on March 3rd, 2023. On September 9th, SWORC held a public meeting in the Montgomery Park Business Center here at Lottery headquarters to receive public comments on the proposed regulations. SWORC staff was able to provide an audio feed for that particular meeting, and we posted the audio recording on the SWORC website for all to listen to. As I noted, the 30-day public comment period expires on Monday, September 26th. SWORC staff will prepare for the commissioners a listing of all comments received. So we'll provide you with a listing, we'll provide you with all the comments. And once that is done, we will then ask SWORC to vote on the recommendations that we'll provide to the members and to see if you want to make any changes to the proposed regulations before we move for final notice in the Maryland Register. Commissioners, please note that I will probably be scheduling a special meeting, either the first or second week in October to accomplish this task, because in order to meet my deadline, I want to get this published in the October 21st edition of the Maryland Register. We meet again on October 19th. So I'm going to probably have a meeting either the first or second week in October for the approval of the comments for final action in the Maryland Register. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. We'll stand by for scheduling of that early October meeting. Very good. Any other questions of, any questions of James? All right, the next report on the agenda is John Mooney's on the status of the 17 parties named in the legislation and the status of their applications, as well as what the traffic's looking like in the e-licensing portal.
Muted, John. Muted.
John, you're muted. There we go.
Our number 2. Good morning, commissioners. Before I start giving the total, the picture of the 17 plus e-licensing, I just want to advise you that historically we do not give out names or numbers of applicants for those that have not been approved by our commission. It just protects those that are applying. So I will give you an overview of the 17, the ones that have been through the licensing and been approved by both commissions, and then I'll talk a little bit about our e-licensing portal. So for the 17 designated applicants, the 5 of our casinos are up and running with sports wagering. Hollywood Casino, Horseshoe Casino, Live Casino and Hotel, MGM National Harbor Casino, and Ocean Downs Casino. 2 of our Class Bs are open and operating sports wagering. That would be Bingo World and Riverboat on the Potomac. We have 4 additional locations that have been approved. Those are Greenmount, Long Shots, Jockey Bar and Grill, and Maryland Stadium Sub. They are going through build out and also working with Jim Logue's team for their internal controls. And so hopefully they will be up and running soon, the 4 of them. And also in the status of e-licensing, as you all know, e-licensing was opened on June 16th. We have talked to Phil Metz, the director of licensing, and Teresa Amon has talked to numerous potential applicants. They're willing to do Zoom phone calls or just conference calls with anybody that is interested to learn more about e-licensing and the requirements of being licensed or working through the e-licensing system. I would encourage anybody that is listening online right now that if you're interested or have any questions about the process of applying through our e-licensing system, to contact Teresa or Paul. There are Teresa and Phil. Their contact information is in the FAQs. If you have questions, you want to learn more, that's how you do it. They're willing to talk to anybody. They'll talk to them for a half hour, an hour, answer every question they have to make them more comfortable about whether they want to apply. And if they do apply, they're willing to assist them in filling out the e-licensing application. That's my update for both e-licensing and the designated 17.
All right, are there any questions or comments of John by the commission members regarding what he's reported to us? All right. Hearing none, our next agenda item is a update on the application process for new applicants from Jim Nielsen.
Good morning, all. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of kind of the steps that we'll be going through for the application process. I think, as you all know, the applications are going to be submitted to SPR, but through MLGC because there's no facility for SPR to receive them in. We're going to log and record the time that any application is received, and we will keep them secure. Once it's received, Lottery and Gaming will confirm that the license fee has been received as well and log that information. TAF has created what's basically a Dropbox where commissioners, I'm sorry, I'm hearing an echo and I don't know why. There's a Dropbox where commissioners and SPR staff will be able to access soft copies of the applications. We can also distribute hard copies to whoever wants one. So if anyone wants to get a hard copy, just shoot us an email and we will make sure that we can get it to you. And just a reminder, no applications or information from an application can be released publicly until the awards are made. After that, the redacted versions of the applications will be available and subject to PIA, but we do expect it will take some time for the OAG's office to review the suggested redactions that an applicant may have and make sure that they're appropriate. So it won't be an immediate thing. OAG needs to go through those and make sure that everything looks right. So that's kind of the process for the receipt of the applications. Ms. Kopp's going to talk more about the process of the actual reviews. I also just want to talk about a couple key dates. October 3rd, as is stated in the application, facility applicants, not mobiles, but facility applicants are asked to notify Lottery and Gaming of the physical address for their sports book so that we can make sure that it's not in any exclusion zones. October 21st is actually obviously the due date, and we're all looking forward to that. November 4th is 14 days after the applications are due, and at that point, all applicants must have submitted their application to the MLGCC in the e-licensing system. And if anyone chooses to submit their SPR application before October 21st, the 14-day period for their e-licensing submission would obviously be moved up. Then the next two dates are when Taft will be able to produce their initial reviews and then their complete reviews of all the applications received. And again, as a reminder, diversity plans from any applicant that is awarded a license would be due 30 days after the date of the award. The other thing that we wanted to bring up today for consideration and potentially discussion deals with how we actually go through the process of awarding the licenses once we get through all of the reviews. So if SPR does not receive more applications than are permitted, namely 30 facility and 60 mobiles, it may be desirable and is arguably beneficial for SPR to award licenses to applicants on a rolling basis. As SPR does a review of the applications and Lottery and Gaming finds the individual applicants qualified for a license. We expect that a number of potential applicants have already been licensed by Lottery and Gaming, and some other entities will be eligible for our alternative licensing process. Lottery and Gaming will not do full investigations on these people and entities at this time, and that's just the way we handled the casinos back about a year ago. So a finding of qualification by Lottery and Gaming can be made pretty quickly. All applicants are required to demonstrate 5% ownership by individuals with a personal net worth of under $1.847 million. And to remind everybody, if one person owns 5% of the applicant, they will have to undergo a full background investigation. And depending upon the applicant, it could take some time to get that done if they have significant holdings or if they're not familiar with the process of background investigations in the gaming industry. So we all know that the public is clamoring to get sports betting. We get comments about why hasn't it launched yet every day. SPR can make mobile sports betting available somewhat sooner by awarding the licenses on a rolling basis. Again, if we don't get 60 applications, anyone that submits a timely and acceptable application may be awarded a license. So Taft can review applications and SPR can vote to award licenses to those that are already qualified by Lottery and Gaming. And then awardees will have to complete their operational requirements, the internal controls, the responsible gaming, controlled demonstrations, all those things that have happened with the facilities. And then they could be issued a license by Lottery and Gaming in very short order. And for the mobiles, there's little, if any, construction or renovation that they're going to need to do, so they can move faster than some of the Class B operations that we've seen. And we think that this aligns with the public demand to get sports betting mobile operational quickly, as well as SPR's fiduciary duty to raise money for the Blueprint Fund. And then the only other thing I wanted to comment on is, as we've talked about in the past, we don't believe that there should be a universal award date for licenses. And the primary reason for that is because a single applicant who struggles with their e-licensing submission or answering questions or other various issues that they have to complete before they're awarded a license, one applicant could hold up the entire industry from starting. So a universal award date just seems like it's got a lot of inherent risks that we would recommend against. And I think that's it. Any questions on that?
Very good. That's a lot of information. And for this commission, the tire's about to hit the road as far as us actually acting on applications. There's a companion report forthcoming, a companion to Jim's from Kim Kopp, which is highly relevant, addressing the application review process that we're going to be called upon to execute on. So I'm going to ask Kim to address the commission and then open the floor to Q&A about both Jim's and Kim's previews of what lies ahead for us. Ms. Kopp.
Sure. Thank you and good morning, commissioners. And what Jim had mentioned is that when we get the applications on the 21st, well, we obviously can receive them sooner, but I suspect we're going to get significant chunk of them at 5 p.m. on the 21st if history is anything to repeat itself, because that's what we've seen in most other jurisdictions. But nonetheless, for all of the commissioners, you will have the ability to access, as Jim had mentioned, electronically. We've set up a secure data room where we will give access to all of you so you could log in and see electronic copies of all of the applications. So you'll have the full applications. And as Jim also mentioned, if you'd like paper, some of us older folks, myself, I still like paper, we'll have paper applications available to you as well. We would just need to know if you'd like that, what address we should deliver those to or how we should deliver them to you. Anyway, so you'll have the full application, which you are free to review at any time, or if you've got questions and want to dig into them further, you'll have that ability. What we Taft expect to be doing is once we receive those applications, I suspect the first few days we'll be going through just to make sure we have complete submissions. I suspect that that'll be what the lottery folks are doing as well, and we'll collectively be going through those. After that, what Taft is expecting to do is really to produce 2 deliverables to you. The first deliverable is, I call it a matrix, but it's really a side-by-side for, well, let's break it down first. For each category of applicants, so a Class B or a mobile, we would do a side-by-side comparison. What I mean by that is we'd have the applicant's name on one column, and on the other row across would be their answers very quickly. I mean, not intending to be completely their answers, otherwise this thing would be unmanageable, but quick responses so you could see, or at least citations of where you could find their full responses in their applications. That side-by-side is intended to highlight just a quick response so you could see in one space side-by-side comparison of applicants' response to the significant questions that we've asked in our application. We find that that's helpful just to get some orientation of what the different responses are and to be able to compare them quickly. Obviously, the meat of the answers, because we couldn't put that in this matrix, we'll have in a different format, and you can always access the full application. The second deliverable, one, I think we can get to you. Our goal is to get that comparison to you as quickly as possible, just to kind of orient us to the applications. The second thing we would be producing, which would come after that matrix, for lack of a better term, is a expanded summary. We expect to do it by applicant. I'm expecting it to be 3, 4, 5 pages that would summarize the applicant's application responses, focusing on some of the more substantive response questions we've asked. And that would be obviously our ownership requirements, very important to us, the business plan of the applicant. And what I mean by that is what's their experience, their expertise, their financial wherewithal to operate a successful sports wagering business. That would also include a review of, anticipated revenues to the state of Maryland from taxes. And that summary, each summary, I guess, would be factual information. So it's going to be just what their responses were. And we would provide that to you with the intent to kind of, because sometimes these applications, although we look at our application, it's 8 pages, 9 pages. Sometimes when you get the responses, they're overwhelming. I suspect some of them will be several binders long. So the intent of preparing these summaries is to be able to orient the commissioners and all of you very quickly to the highlights of someone's application, the material and substantive responses. Obviously, then we would meet with you to discuss those responses, discuss the applicants and their applications, and answer any questions. And then from that information, we would expect the commissioners to be able to make an assessment of whether to award a license or to deny a license or not award a license to somebody. And the intent of that is just to kind of distill something that might look like unmanageable when you see several binders into bites pieces that are manageable and easy to digest. And that's similar to what we've done in other jurisdictions when we've served in this type of capacity, whether it be for sports wagering or casino applications. And then, of course, the next step would be for SWARC, lottery to tell us, yes, these folks are good or bad if they've met the background qualifications, and then to begin awarding licenses. So I know I've said that quickly, but I'd be more than happy to answer questions, or I know that the chairman wanted to open it up to discussion.
Yeah, I would just invite elaborating on the resources you've brought to bear so that this process is not a bottleneck in September 2022 as we're trying to enable some sports wagering in Maryland. I don't think that yet has been mentioned, but could be.
Yeah, we will have, Mr. Chairman, we'll have a full staff reviewing those. We're going to bring in, various experts to assist us in it. So we do not believe that there's going to be a bottleneck. We think we've got sufficient staff, sufficient additional consultants to get it done on a prompt basis within the timelines that we've discussed before.
Very good. All right. Well, with that, I'll invite questions by the other commissioners. The working group has been very much engaged with Taft and the staff to get us to what we've just heard. But there's going to be a lot of activity for which we have to be prepared to act on a responsible but expeditious basis. So now's a good time to talk about what that is looking like. Questions by commissioners?
Commissioner Hash, you had indicated that how would we schedule our meetings to be able to respond to the volume of applications that are coming in. So I assume that we'll start meeting more often to be able to take the applications for the approval process, or how will that work?
I'll invite the staff to elaborate, but as James said, certainly after this deadline is complete and on October 19th rather, the Taft people and staff are going to assemble for us what they can as soon as they can, and they're going to call a special meeting for us as soon as thereafter. We had special meetings a year ago on the 17th as applications were ready for us to review, and I think that's the likely intention in the coming months, if I can offer that thought. And James, you might correct or amend.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We're going to follow the same process as before. As the applications come in, we'll coordinate with DLS, TAF, and your schedules to arrange these special meetings.
Very good. I would just comment, and again invite comments. The existence of SWARC is kind of unique in that an awful lot of the evaluation process is the province of the lottery organization and its commission and staff. But the legislation has a particular focus for us on the diversity opportunities that these applicants are going to be presenting. So as Kim pointed out, I believe that information, that and the business plan are going to be the focal points for our team as the applications come to us.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, since we as SWARC do the award, then it has to go back to lottery for the issuance of the licenses, which requires a substantial amount of work. I would suggest that it makes most sense to do the awarding on a rolling basis. So I would like to make a motion that we do the awards on a rolling basis as they're presented to us as complete.
Very good. Is there a second to Randy's motion as to handling the applications that come to SWARC on a rolling basis?
I'll second it.
I hear Frank and Bert, but I think we've got a duly submitted motion. Is there any discussion of the motion? I think the facts have been laid out for us pretty clearly by Jim and Kim and James. But if there are any questions or further discussion, may I hear all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 So I think any opposed, I think the motion passes unanimously among those of us present.
Can I get some quick clarification?
Sure, David.
We said to approve applications on a rolling basis if there are fewer than the number of authorized licenses. I think that's what Jim's proposal was, but I don't know that that was.
No, I think that's fair to say. I know it was discussed, but that's good clarification. There's 30 and 60, which none of us assumes are going to be exceeded, but certainly we couldn't approve them if the law doesn't allow us to go over those numbers.
Well, after the 21st, we'll know. So that was the intent of my motion.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's
Yes.
it's good to write it the right way.
Yeah, so the rolling basis would begin after the due date. We couldn't do that beforehand.
Very good.
To re-motion, or are we good?
Randy's asking, David, do we need to read the motion, or do you think it's clear enough to be memorialized in our minutes?
I mean, if there are any members who want to change their vote or have discussion based on that clarification,
I see.
then I think give them an opportunity to speak up if that's the case, but otherwise, I don't see need to.
I hereby submit that opportunity to the commissioners. Does anybody want to change their vote? I see no indications thereof. So I believe that's now sufficiently clear.
Mr. Chairman, as before, as those applications come in, we'll schedule those special meetings with all the commissioners and get those applicants, you get to make your decision, and we'll proceed from there.
Very good. All right, then. I believe that concludes the business on the agenda for today's meeting. As James said, while our next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, October 19th, we'll likely be called upon for a special meeting in the first week of October to keep the ball moving. So with that, then may I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. Any opposed? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you everyone for hanging in. And, we'll talk again in a couple of weeks.
All right, bye all.
Weekend all.
Thank you. Have a good day.